And we are back for another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with those movers and shakers, the film and TV makers, those producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, film editors, production designers, costume designers, VFX gurus, and by the way, big congratulations to Matt Aitken at WETA for his induction into the Visual Artisan Society. You all know I love WETA, and I love the guys there, and Matt is one of them who I've been lucky enough to speak with numerous times. But, you know, we talk to the VFX gurus, we talk to the sound editors, the sound mixers, the stunt coordinators, the composers. And boy, oh boy, I've been doing a lot of talking. And not all the interviews end up here on Behind the Lens. Not all of them end up on my website, behindthelensonline.net. They also spread out in other places. I just transcribed over 20 hours of interviews for a couple days this past week, with more yet to come, and then be turned into product. And that doesn't include audio edits, but busy time. We're heading into award season. Campaigns are already starting, and there's some great stuff out there. And I got to tell you, a great film that you need to take a look at right now in theaters is Conclave. It is brilliant. It is a masterpiece. It is masterful. It is absolutely outstanding. And it is directed by the incredible Edward Berger, who you know from directing All Quiet on the Western Front. Outstanding cast: Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini, who doesn't do a lot in front of the camera anymore. But all you classic film fans, you watch Conclave, and the camera captures Isabella at certain angles, you will swear that it is her mother, Ingrid Bergman, on the screen. Just outstanding. It is adapted from Robert Harris's book by Peter Strahan. And the score by the fabulous Volker Bertelmann. Just production design, Susie Davies. It's just impeccable. They had to build a Sistine Chapel in the legendary Cinecittà Studios over in Italy. Just on every level. I encourage you, don't wait for it to become available on digital, home video, VOD, anything. You want to see this film in the theater. It is a hot Oscar contender on every level. Absolutely stunning. But talk about some stunning films. We're going to have some fun today because it is the last Monday of October. It is Halloween week. And, for the past month, I've been trying to, bring you some Halloweenish spookiness with some of the filmmakers we've talked to and some of the interviews you've heard. And today, we're going to wrap up Halloween week with the wonderful writer-director Jane Clark. It's been a while since Jane has been on the show. She's been busy working on her new film, Witchy Ways. You can't get more Halloween-y than that, folks. Jane will be joining me at the midpoint of the show. I'm so happy that she's going to be back with us. The last time that she was on with us was talking about the legendary Crazy Bitches. She did the film and then did a series for 2 seasons. So this one, though, Witchy Ways, it is sweetly enchanting. It's magical. And everybody's got a little magic in them. And as you watch it, It might remind you a bit of Practical Magic, starring Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock, and the little bit of magic that they have there. So I can't wait to talk to Jane. It'll be lovely to catch up with her. But first, another, for all you action fans out there, I was surprised. I didn't know what to expect with the movie Classified. It's essentially a three-hander. Aaron Eckhart, Abigail Breslin, and Tim Roth. Aaron Eckhart he's a CIA hitman. He's been in the field for over 20 years. He uses the help wanted sections of newspapers to get his orders. His long-lost daughter now works for MI6 as an analyst. She tracks him down to let him know that his CIA boss, who is played by Tim Roth, has been dead for years. The division that he answers to and does hits for has been shut down. So who's been giving him orders for the past 20 years? And this goes on a father-daughter surprise meeting and then teaming up to find out what's been happening. The film is shot in Malta, beautiful location, and shot in a lot of historical areas. Other filmmakers that I've spoken with in the past, some of which have been here on the show, that have shot in Malta, they rave about the Maltese government, about the film commission there, and how wonderful and welcoming they are to filmmakers. And that is exactly what director, cinematographer, and composer ROEL REINE discovered on shooting Classified there. What's really interesting here, the Classified is written by Bob DeRosa. It is, as I said, directed by ROEL REINE, who you may know from Ancient Empires on TV, the miniseries Colosseum, Halo, great series, Fistful of Vengeance, a martial arts movie that's available on Netflix, Death Race 3, Scorpion King 3, Battle for Redemption. ROEL is huge on action, and he does it so well. And what's so incredible is that not only does he direct, but he is the cinematographer on his films as well. He operates as you'll hear him talk about, he operates the A camera. In this particular case of Classified, he had 3 to 4 cameras in play. So he had assistant cameramen who were operating B and C cameras. There were also what he called toy cams, GoPros just stuck in all kinds of places. There was no second unit since he shoots everything himself. He flies the drones himself. To ROEL, camera is it's the third character in a scene. Just absolutely, he is a lovely, lovely man. And as I said, I love his work, but to be the director and the cinematographer, and you'll hear him talk about it here in a moment. But for the first time, he also scored the music for Classified. This is the first time in my 42 plus years as a critic that I have ever spoken with a director who also composed the score for his film. And it's a great score because it really captures the energy of this cat and mouse game. And of course, there's lots of explosions and lots of cool stuff happening in terms of action. For those of you that are really familiar with Aaron Eckhart's work, this may remind you, in the respect of a father and a daughter, it may remind you of Aaron's work with Liana Liberato in Erased. Quite a few similarities with the character construct there, and the action aspect. But this is an animal amongst itself, Classified. It is beautiful. You get to see Malta, the sun, the sea, all of it's great. And you will not look away. You will not look away. So rather than me keep rambling, I'm going to let you take a listen to my exclusive interview with ROEL REINE talking about Classified. Well, hello there, good sir. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I was so thrilled watching Classified. It is intense, it's action-packed, Aaron Eckhart was perfectly cast. It is one of the best things I've ever seen Abby do, and love her as becoming an action hero herself, and a beautiful setting shooting this in Malta. You just knocked this one out of the park for me.
Thank you. Nice to hear. Yes.
How did this script even find its way to you? Now, number one, if it's action-packed, it's right up your alley. That is your wheelhouse. You do action films so well. But how did this script find its way to you?
Yeah, no, it was developed by Filmbridge, the producers and the production company, and it found my way to a insurance company who kind of, film finances, who kind of bonds movies, because they were very nervous about this script because it was so action-packed. And I work a lot for them, so they were like, we should ask ROEL to come. And so it came to me, and then the plan was to shoot in Malta, but the script was kind of boring at the time, because it was set in like a mansion and in a factory. It was not so in the open. And so when I was scouting Malta, I kind of changed the script with the writer and put everything in Malta, and in chases and car chases and boat chases, and because the original script didn't have that. And I wanted to explore what I could do and push the limits in Malta itself. And they gave us so much room to play that I could, my nation could go really big. And so we made, in the end, a really big movie.
Well, your imagination went really big with this one, ROEL. And I'm so thrilled that you moved this outside to really give us, number one, a flavor of the location. And you get it just buttresses and builds Aaron's character of Evan Shaw, because a CIA agent or hitman, he's going to be out there exploring different areas. He's not going to stay inside one contained area. And you give us much more context for the character.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, the way that the two characters, Abigail and Aaron, have to interact with each other on a journey that is, on boats, in cars, in the middle of cities, running through it, getting shot at, also makes their character, their development, and becoming building their relationship is very important. And so going to all these lengths, making it a road movie instead of we are in a mansion talking, gives you that kind of character development that you want. And both actors went for it, they were so enthusiastic doing this.
Aaron is no stranger to doing films like this and roles like this. And I'm not surprised that Abby wanted to branch out and really spread her wings here. She's no longer the cute little elf that we would see in Santa Claus movies. So, this is a great showpiece for her.
And she's badass, because I'm a director who likes actors to do their own things. I like actors to do their own stunts and, stand in the middle of explosions and shoot the guns. And Abigail went for it, So that was definitely something out of her comfort zone. And she embraced it and went for it.
And I like watching the chemistry between the characters of Evan and Casey build. That build is so important, and this is where your movement to outside works even better, is because they're in different situations and you see how each responds individually and then as a team. And that's so fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that's true. And also if you give actors kind of freedom, what I like to do, then Abigail's banter irritates the hell out of Aaron. And then Aaron is reacting to that, as his character would be. So it's a lot of fun. It's fun to watch, because it's like they need to connect. but in the meantime, they piss each other up, but it's really cool for the movie, and it works really nice.
And by taking it outside as well, I love the fact that everything is out in the open, because MI6 and the CIA, hitmen, all of that is always supposed to be so cloak and dagger. But you've got this great metaphor happening where, hey, we're out in the bright sunshine, we're in open areas, and it really lets you just deliver some beautiful, beautiful imagery, since you're also your own cinematographer.
Yeah.
So you really took advantage of Mother Nature and made the outdoors, made the sun, made the water, made all of that a character itself, and how that impacts what Evan and Casey are experiencing. And it looks beautiful on top of it.
Thank you. No, and the good part of that is that if you work in an environment like Malta, where the Maltese government just lets you do it, you know. Yeah. For me, I was amazed, because when I was scouting and I see all these locations, I was like, I want to shoot in the harbor, and because it looks like New York, right? We also shot that in Malta. So I want to shoot in the center of the streets, and we're running through it, and I want to do speedboats in the harbor, and I want to do car chases. And Malta was really open for me to move around, to shoot these things, put the drone in the air, shoot in these historical locations, and have explosions in the middle of historical squares, you know. It's like, so if you get in a location where they let you do that, you know, you can have that feeling. And we were very lucky with Malta, though, that the sky was the limit. And then I'm a director who then will come up with some big set piece to do.
Well, I'm so glad you did. And I know some other filmmakers that have shot in Malta, and they had equally wonderful experiences with Malta saying, okay, do what you want. And you mentioned something very key, the historical areas on Malta. Some of those areas go back centuries. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I was tickled to see that you brought history into this story. We could see and feel the depth and breadth of the landscape. And I really enjoyed that aspect that you brought in, ROEL. Really lovely. Now, how challenging, because you shoot, you direct, so you don't have a cinematographer to plan out shot lists or storyboards with, so you're doing this yourself. What is your process for an action-packed film like this? Are you storyboarding? Are you shot listing? What is your process there, melding director and cinematographer?
Yeah, my process is that for me, directing is not only coming up with locations and the story and the characters and directing the actors. It's also for me blocking a scene, building a tension in the scene between the characters. And for me, the camera is like a third character in a scene. So for me, when I block the scene and the movie inside my head, the camera is the third character in that imagination. And I always dream my movies, so I see all the shots beforehand. And then I'm not a storyboard guy. I never do storyboards. I only do storyboards when I do like big visual effects shots. You know, for Halo, we had a lot of visual effects shots, so I will storyboard them. But for action scenes or other scenes, I will not do storyboards. I do not really a shot list because I have it all in my head. I operate a camera. I shoot with 4 cameras, and every scene is already in my mind. And so I'm communicating, doing prep with my crew and with the stunt guys and with the other operators. And then when we do a recce, so when you go to the locations and I tell all the technical crew what we're going to do, I'm already very specific. I know exactly where the cameras will be. I know exactly where explosions need to be, where we move the camera, what I need to put lenses on it. So I'm very specific, and it's all in my head. And sometimes I will make the shot list, but I like to communicate directly. And then all the people that I communicate with, they make the notes, they make the list. And then when I'm on the day shooting, you know, I shoot exactly that and improvise a lot. For me, it's also kind of the shoot is kind of jazz, you know. You have like a chorus line on the score, which is kind of the script. and then we're going to jazz on top of it. And if you have a flexible crew that is not scared about me saying, hey, I would like to have in 20 minutes an explosion over there, and they're like, okay, we'll put an explosion over there, and then 20 minutes later we blow up this thing. And so I'm freewheeling with a plan in my head that is very solid. And that's the way I can shoot this movie. We shot in 20 days.
Oh, my God.
No second unit. So I shoot everything myself with main unit. And I even fly the drones myself and in between takes. And so that's kind of what I do. And I do like 100, 120 slates a day. And then you can have this production value. Yeah.
Wow. Number one, I'm shocked over 20 days. Number two, I'm utterly amazed how you've got all of this in your head.
Yes.
But I can understand, it makes perfect sense to me that you see it all in your head, you know it. Now, shooting this way, obviously, this is an assist when it comes to the editing process in post-production. Is it not? Does this...
Yes. So you can imagine that I shoot with 3 cameras, 4 cameras, and some drones and some other small kind of toy cameras. And so on a daily basis, I shoot like 6-7 hours of footage. And those 6-7 hours of footage goes to the editor. And I normally work with the same editor on all my movies. So he understands my style, he understands what I want, and he also understands my taste. So in his selection of those 6 hours a day of footage and take out the 2-3 minutes that will end up in the movie, he's very specific, and it reflects my taste because we've done it now so many times in so many movies. So it's like an organic kind of thing. And also you need to realize sometimes some of the shots are more technical and planned. You know, for example, the shot where the camera goes down in the staircase and we have this flashes of gunfire. Mm-hmm. So that's something I would like to do. So some team, like a grip team, is building that for hours, you know, because it needs to have like a thrust and a cable system with a camera, and it's like very technical. So I will plan it, I will tell them what to do, and then they will spend half day rigging that shot. Well, I shoot with the other 2 cameras other things. And then when they're ready, we go there with Aaron and then shoot this one shot in 2 takes, and then we'll move on. So a lot of things are also very much planned. And it's 2-3 cameras, or 3-4 cameras, and you can plan these things and do even very complicated shots, even if you only have 20 days.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got a lot of complicated shots in this film, I got to tell you, and they look glorious. Now, another aspect of this film that is so beautiful to see and is very interesting is how you change the tone and the lighting whenever Shaw is having his remembrances about Kevin Angler. And you really super saturate with light in some of those moments. And you also, like, desaturate color. And I'm curious how you didn't go with a sepia tone. So many people would do a flashback with a sepia tone. Thank God you didn't do that. So I'm curious how you developed the look you wanted for those flashbacks.
Yeah, no, you kind of experiment, and then you kind of have a plan, you know, and you want to do something that people will recognize and understand very fast. So you want to do something that is familiar, but you still want to do something that nobody else is doing. So finding that way, I don't know, it just comes into me, and then you try it out in the color timing and also in the lighting on the set, and then you go for it, you know. And because I love movies, right? I watch everything. I see everything. I see all the big movies, the cheap movies. I see all the Asian movies. I see everything. So you get this sense of feeling of what works, and then you kind of incorporate that in your own stuff.
And what I love about how you did the lighting in those, there are a couple scenes in particular, it's almost as if a metaphoric light streaming down from heaven, because Shaw held Angler in such high regard. It's almost angelic or ethereal in his recollection. And I just thought that was so beautiful and as I said, so metaphoric, and really adds to the story and what we're watching unfold. Just so beautifully done, Roel.
Thank you. Yeah, for me also, for me, movies is bigger than life, right? So anything real or realism, you should make documentaries or watch the news. So if you make a movie, you want to make it bigger than life and do something extraordinary. So when I read the script and saw all the scenes in the hotel, I was kind of, oh shit, how are we going to make that different? How are we going to make that bigger than life and still have like the theme and the emotion that you want? So for me, bringing, for example, that beam, the green beam of light, and later became this orange beam, it's like a theater spot that makes this, when you can do like shapes. And then I only have the lighting outside of the window and the curtains closed. So I remember that I put this light outside the curtains and I put this beam on the wall. And then Aaron came into the shed and he was looking at it. He said, "Oh, I love this lighting. I know what you want. I understand it." So then when I roll the camera, he works perfectly in that light. He stands perfectly in the center of the light with the curtain because he understands what I try to do, and he is so professional. He's done it so many times that he gets it, And even in the shower, where we only have this beam, him standing in that beam of light with his emotion and thinking about Angler and the girl, it's like, that's really powerful stuff. So when you work with actors that understand cinema and understands what that light is doing, it's wonderful to watch,
How difficult or challenging was the casting of this one? Number one, I can see nobody but Aaron playing this role. Having seen him in this and other films he's done in the past, he is perfection, is Evan Shaw.
Yeah.
But how challenging was it? You don't have a huge principal cast. You've got your three main. You've got Aaron, Abigail, and Tim Roth as Angler. And then you've got the supporting bad guys, shall we say. How difficult was the casting to come up with this nice meld of these three?
Yeah, no, it's difficult in a matter of who's available, who wants to do it, who wants to jump in a plane and come to Malta and play, So you have the help of agents, and in this movie, CAA, the agency CAA was very helpful, especially Aaron Eckhart's agent. I understand that she was a big fan of my work, and Aaron also was a fan, so they kind of helped. And so we were looking for somebody who could banter, who has a different kind of feeling and flavor, because I didn't want to have the traditional kind of girl in this movie. We wanted to do something else. And so Abigail was on the list, and they represent her. So then you just ask for her, and then lucky enough she's available, read the script, and she loves it, and wants to do it. And the same with Tim Roth. He's iconic. He does a lot of things, normally completely different things. So for me, asking him and then speaking with him, and then he really said, I don't want to do something traditional. I want to do something different with this character. Was so nice. So, and then it comes together. With luck and the help with powerful agents, you get the cast you need.
A perfect cast. And something that I love is the familiarity that I got with Aaron and Abby here. To me, it reminded me of the dynamic he had with Liana Liberato in their film Erased, where father and daughter on the run, being hunted down, but a completely different storyline and color palette. That was totally iced in blues and the inkiness and the shrouding versus what you've done here with Classified, which is light and bright and out in the open. It's like, hey, guys, we're CIA and MI6. And I just love that. Now, you also composed the music.
Yes, crazy, yeah.
Is there nothing that you can't do, Raul?
I don't know. I cannot act. I would be a terrible actor. But no, the thing is with the music is that I play music from when I was a child. It's just a hobby. I even have a few CDs on Spotify and Apple Music because I like to do it as a hobby. And when we finished with the movie shooting and I was cutting it, the strikes hit, right? The actor strike. So I was kind of 5-6 months. We're not shooting anything. So I was like, I always wanted to score a movie, so I was like, well, why not score this movie? And also, I think my musical style, the electronic kind of approach, kind of worked for the story. So I was like, hell, let's do it. Let's try. Let's jump in the deep end and do something I've never done before. So that's how it came together.
I love the score. I love what you did because it really buttresses the energy of this film. It doesn't overshadow the beauty of the camera work. It doesn't overshadow performances. It really is this great undercurrent, buttressing and falling right in line with the energy you already have going. And I really like that about this score.
Thank you. You know, I was very insecure about it because I still like, oh, should I do this? Should I put my score underneath it? But yes, no, I was going for that, you know, because the score is, you don't want to overplay it, you don't want to underplay it, so you want to find some middle ground, and it's difficult, you know. It was hard to do, but it was a lot of fun, you know. Creatively, it was another thing I tried and did, and maybe I'll do it one or two more in the future, but then I will stop, because also it's very nerve-wracking and costs a lot of energy.
I'm just surprised that you weren't thinking of the score in your head as you were shooting.
Yeah, no, because I was not planning to do the score, but music is very important to my work, so I always choose songs or music when I'm reading a script, when I'm prepping a movie, when I'm looking for locations. Then when I go to the set, I have a piece of music in my ears or in the car, and it kind of inspires me. Sometimes I even give actors like a few songs that I kind of like for their character or for the tone of the movie, and give these tracks to them, so they can also be in the same kind of emotional space as I am when I drive to the set. And sometimes I even put the music on the set. You know, I've done movies where I wanted to have the emotion of extras and actors and everybody on the same tone. So on the speakers I put on Lisa Gerard, a very emotional track of her, and then everybody's kind of in the same space and zone. When I film the cameras, we stop the music, and then when it cuts, we put the music on again. And it's the whole day. You know, the crews hate it because they listen to one song the whole day. But it tells you, it sets you the tone. So for me, music is always a very integral part of my creativity.
Oh, well, I'm so glad it is. Now, because I have the luxury of having you as director and cinematographer, I can ask you one of my favorite questions that most directors can't answer. What cameras and lenses were you shooting with?
Yes. I shot with Arri 35s, mainly, and then I had a Mavic Pro DJI drone, and we shot with a few GoPros 11s. And we used the Asylum lenses, what was really nice. They have a nice flare, nice feeling to it. We're shooting on 235 framing, and no anamorphic, because we don't have the time. And we shot the movie in 20 days with 3 cameras, no second unit, so I shot everything myself. I operate a camera, and then I have a B and C camera operator, and no video village, you know, so we can move quickly and fast.
Wow. No video village, that's a surprise.
There's a stand with 2 monitors on the sets for like makeup and wardrobe, and for a production designer to look. But I hate video village, you know. Fucking hate it. For me also, you know, you cannot direct. I don't believe you can direct a movie as a director sitting on a chair watching television. I understand. I don't understand the principle, you know. If you want to be on set, even when I'm doing the big things, you know, when I do Halo, the big sci-fi TV show, you know, there's operators and DPs, but I will be on set with a stand and 2 monitors because I want to feel the energy of the actors. I want to communicate directly with the operators. I want to be in the center of the process. Otherwise, I'm just watching television. You know, I could stay at home.
And have your popcorn and your snacks and all of that with you.
Suck, you know, because I want to be in the middle of the movie, you know. I want to be in the center. And for me, also the camera, you know, I always feel, even if I was not a cinematographer, but I am. For me, as a director, you direct a movie, so you need to understand what a camera does. It's the third character in a scene. So you need to, in your imagination, when you kind of come up with the ideas of what you want to shoot, the camera and the lenses and the lighting should be part of that creative choice and creative visual. So that's why I became a cinematographer, because I wanted to direct. I wanted to direct the camera as well, and I want to direct the flavor and building the worlds. And you do that with the brush in your hand. You want to make a painting, you need a brush.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've admired your work for so long, Roel. I love Fistful of Vengeance. I admit it. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I love that what you bring to action, what you've done in Halo, in the episodics.
Yeah.
Just so wonderfully done and well crafted and classified. So thoroughly enjoyable. I have to watch it again. This is the kind of film that I will watch many, many, many more times in years to come. It's entertaining from beginning to end. And I love how you make use of the space, the exterior space, even the interiors, but utilizing those staircases and making the most of those narrow stone staircases and the open spaces with big shootouts and things. Just extremely well done and so visually appealing. I love it. I love it, Roel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And yes, you're right. Fistful of Vengeance, that was also so much fun to shoot. The way we did that and the scope that we could achieve with this incredible crew in Thailand, it was such a blast. I'm very proud of that movie.
Oh, and you should be. You should be.
Yeah.
Roel, this has been so wonderful getting to speak with you about Classified. I hope we get to talk again in the future. Are you working on another film now?
Yeah, no, we are in post-production on a bear attack movie called Savage Hunt.
Ooh.
And then hopefully we're going to shoot another movie in March. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
You're just, I know, are you going to score either one of those?
I scored the bear movie as well, yes.
Ha ha! See? Look at that. Look at that. Oh, my God. Well, I can't wait for the bear movie. Yeah. Bears attacking humans? It's almost as good as sharks. So I will be on the lookout for it. Roel, thank you so, so much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, and hopefully we'll do this again.
Absolutely. Always.
Okay.
Always welcome to join.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was ROEL REINE talking about Classified. Again, pretty remarkable. Cinematographer, director, and he composes. Amazing. And I am looking forward to his bear movie. So, now we're going to switch gears and we're going to get spooky. Sweetly spooky. And a big welcome to the one and only Jane Clark. Are you there, Jane? Pam,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Pam's playing with things. And after I gave you a great intro, boy, oh boy. So, how the heck are you? Been a long time.
Oh, man, it has been, hasn't it? Too long, honestly.
Well, you've been working on this little project called Witchy Ways.
I have been.
And I am just so thrilled with it. It is enchanting. It's sweetly enchanting. It's a very sweet story, very rom-com-ish, but with a little bit of magic. It does smack of practical magic. And I will say, after watching Witchy Ways, it made me want to go see practical magic again.
Oh, well, you can find it all over the internet.
And that's exactly what I did. I also own a copy of it, but I was too lazy to find it and pull it out. But this is really a fun, sweet film, Jane. Number one, you've got Candace Cain in it, and I love seeing Candace Cain. Candace is so funny. And
yeah, she totally is.
She once again is here. But you have made this, it's so intimate. Your location is a definite character in this film. Uh, how long did it take you to find that location in Topanga Canyon?
Oh my God. It took it took a lot of trips out into the more hilly areas of our Southern California. And initially I was really starting to feel like I wasn't going to find what I needed, and we were starting to look at places that were, divided up, because there's a main house and a cottage, and they're supposed to be on the same property, but you start thinking of alternatives when you can't find it. And my producer, I don't think, was kind of used to the way I go about things, but for me, like, finding the right location is the first step. I don't ever set a start date without a location already found, because then you're taking what you can get, and it's not going to work. But yeah, we went out. We went to Big Bear. We went, Idlewild. We went everywhere we could think of where it might be remote, and we did a tour of Topanga as well, and couldn't find anything. And then she said, maybe we should wait until you have financing. And I was like, nope, I can't do that. And I'm going to go back out, and you can come with me or not. It's okay. If you don't want to, I understand, but I have to go back out. And she was like, oh, okay, I'm in. And she's the one who actually found this one. It was on Airbnb. And they rent it out on Airbnb under Mother Topanga, which is appropriate for that house. And and so I just got lucky that we walked into that front area where the kitchen is, and they have the double doors.
Oh.
And we came in through that way, and I thought, oh my God, I found this place that I've been looking for. It's exactly not exactly, but pretty much exactly the way I wrote it. The colors in the house were what I incorporated into the script, and was what I was going to incorporate into my color palette. And that kitchen, my whole thing was, I'm doing this witchy movie, and there's a ghost, and there's all this stuff going around, but at the heart of it, there is this beautiful rom-com. And I wanted to make sure the film felt like a big production rom-com, like a Nancy Meyers rom-com.
Yeah.
And Nancy Meyers rom-coms always start with the kitchen. I mean, you don't have one without a good kitchen. So I walked in there and I was like, I've just found this. Like, you could put any star behind that counter and it would feel like a rom-com. So I got really lucky in it, and I did rewrite the script. And I think I do this anyway, but I rewrote the script around the property once I found it, so that it really became integral into the story.
And I think that's such a smart way to go. Also, your whole thing of, I'm not going to get the financing first. I want to get my location. I want to get everything squared away first, because that's going to impact what you need for your financing.
Yeah, that's true.
It might cut down your budget by $10,000, and that makes all the difference in the world at the indie level.
Yeah, especially.
So, but, that kitchen, walking into that kitchen, and that's why they always say, realtors and all, the kitchen, it's the heart of the home. That's where
it is, that's true.
So, obviously, you need a good kitchen in your film. And you're right, the color palette in there and all the lights and the way the sun comes in, it is light and airy. And yet everything, it's not spread out. So everything feels very intimate in both the house and the cottage area. It's very intimate, and it envelops you. Just like being out there in those woods. It like blankets you in comfort.
Oh, well, good. That was the effect I was going for, so I'm glad it worked.
Well, yes, you achieved it. Jane.
All right.
I mean, that's just so. The location is just so perfect, and it is so integrated into this story, because since we have, Eve, who is just, it's sad. Number one, it's not sad that she quit her job, that she wasn't happy in any way. What's sad is that her mother made these arrangements, that she was going to meet her there, since her mother knew this house, and then her mother passed away before Eve could get there. So, number one, having that blanketed feeling with that kind of a premise, you want that comfort. It's almost like her mother's love is enveloping her. She can't be there, but here you are protected. You were surrounded in this beautiful location. So I love that metaphor that you create.
Cool.
whether you knew that's what you were doing or not. That's exactly how it comes across.
Well,
it's
honestly,
beautiful.
a lot of that stuff for me is just
Innate.
it's instinct.
Yeah.
I just like it's like casting. When I'm casting a film, I just know when I've hit the right actor. I almost don't even need to continue with the casting process. And I feel the same way with locations, which is why I go out and find them first. I just know that if I find the right location, everything else will follow. And I feel it when I walk in. I just feel like I know I'm in the right place. And I do think, it's also like Eve dresses in very comfortable clothes, and she's there to hibernate in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
she's grieving the loss of her mother. She's also in search of her mother's past, trying to understand her mother better when she didn't take enough time to understand her better in life. And so I do think that the coziness of the place, I definitely agree. It adds to that feeling of being cocooned almost, being held in a space where you can actually have your feelings.
And of course, that space also lends to the owner of the property, Danny, who is a witch.
Yeah.
But she's a green witch, and she's in tune with nature, which makes perfect sense why she would be there. And as we learn, her mother, her grandmother, they're witches. They, they bring all of that essence in with the goodness. We don't have bad witches here. Margaret Hamilton is not popping up here. We have good witches here. And that just fits so perfectly to have a green witch, to have a grieving daughter. And it turns out their mothers knew each other. So it's just that whole comfort level really comes across. Nothing is forced. Nothing feels forced. What I find interesting is Danny and Eve, they develop a romance definitely blossoms between them, but you never preach or throw into anybody's faces LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And that's a great gift that you have, Jane, is
thanks.
you didn't do it in Crazy Bitches. You don't shove anything down anybody's throat. You write a story that is just very natural. And it plays out just as people connecting, relationships developing,
right.
Finding love, finding comfort. And that's universal. And that's one of the great things about your writing and your films.
Well, thanks. I mean, for me, I look around my world and then I write the people that are in my world. It's like I don't look at any of the films I've done as LGBTQ plus films. I consider them films with LGBTQ plus characters in them.
Yep.
But they're going about their life like any of us would go about our lives, right? And then there really is no difference between people who fall in love with someone of their same sex or someone who falls in love with someone of another sex. It's love is, it sounds cliche because the hashtag love is love and all that stuff, but it's true. And so, I'm writing a story and the circumstances of gender are not important to the story at all. It's just a story about people who fall in love but are also on their separate journeys towards release and moving through grief and all of that stuff. So in everything I do, I don't approach it like I'm telling a story for a particular niche group. I'm just telling a story, and that group happens to be part of the story or the journey. So, I think that's important. I think it's important to move perspective away from this idea of like other and bring it to the idea of unity. Like we are all human beings on this earth moving through our lives in very similar ways, at least as we approach life with our heart, and I think the more people start doing that, instead of trying to section films off into like, okay, I'm going to make this kind of film and it's going to be about this specific type of person or philosophy or social issue or whatever it is, but just tell a story and let the audience get whatever they're going to get out of it.
Well,
leave it to the audience. I learned that a long time ago when I used to paint. That was my first professional artistic endeavor. And I had somebody up to look at my art, and I was starting to tell them why I did it and what it meant to me. And they were like, Jane, you don't have, as a word of advice, you don't have to tell people what you were thinking, because art is about the viewer and how the viewer perceives it. And that person was like, you should just let the other person tell you what they see, because that's the only thing that's important. If they buy your work, it's about how they're impacted by what they see in it, not what you see in it. And I've always remembered that as just a philosophy in general, that what I do, I put pieces of myself in all of the things I do, but it's really about the viewer and what they take away. So if the viewer watches it and takes away a great love story and doesn't separate out that this is a LGBTQ plus romance, but just experiences that a romance, well, that's something I've accomplished. If I make a point of trying to make it important, then I don't accomplish that. I exclude a lot of people that way.
Yeah. Well, and something else that you do, and that's with your characters and casting, is your age demographic. You are so good at that. You're not casting, 20-something, all look alike, thin as a stick. You're not going that route. You give us real people of different ages. Candace is a perfect example. And she's a hoot in this film. That's the word for her in Witchy Ways. Candace Kane as Penny, Eve's BFF, is a hoot. Especially when we get into the witchy stuff and the witchy fun. Because she plays a big part in that. And and the funniest part, in addition to the chemistry that she has with Diora Baird, who plays Eve, she gets this incredible scene playing opposite, and I just busted a gut at this one, Mark Price. You all know him and remember him as Skippy, Alex P. Keaton's best friend on Family Ties. Mark Price plays Robbie, this horrible, horrible man who wants to file a lawsuit against Danny and steal her property and take it away because his sister died. But to watch that third act scene with Mark and Candace, hilarious, because Diora, who plays Eve, and Miriam Hassler, who plays Danny, they just suddenly they're kind of gone. We are so focused in on Penny and Robbie and what is happening. That scene actually reminded me of Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. After Dan Aykroyd gets sick, he ends up back at his original mansion, and he thinks he's had a dream, and he's talking about that horrible black man who took his life, and all of a sudden he sees Eddie Murphy's character standing there, and he starts choking him and yelling, that he destroyed him, he destroyed his life. Yeah. And you've got Eddie Murphy's character trying to it was the Dukes, it was not me. And that is exactly where my mind went.
That's funny.
Which made it even funnier for me.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of thing, I don't think it would have worked if I had taken it too seriously, but it also wouldn't have worked if the actors and the way it was put together wasn't done as if it's a real scene, a serious scene. The humor is in just the extremes. Yeah. And but the actors are all fully committed, and we tried really hard to make the effects be effective, and all of that stuff. And then you just the whole movie for me is just how many places can I lift somebody up and add a piece of humor in between moments where I'm actually hopefully moving you towards contemplation or a more emotional response. I really love the juxtaposition of humor against truth and reality and a more deeply felt place, you know. And I think it's an interesting thing to play with within minutes, even inside of a movie. I did that a lot in Crazy Bitches too, and
you did.
I think that it makes it feel more like a ride because you're never really sure what's going to come next, so you're sort of always staying engaged, you know.
And that's one of the great things. And of course, you mentioned the visual effects. I love the visual effects here. And that adds to the sweetness. We have a ghost. We have a ghost. No secret here, folks, especially since, it is Halloween this week, which is we've got to have a ghost. We have a ghost. But the way that you use visual effects with little crystalline sparkles that take effect for little magical things that happen, like creating a spell or trying to, create something to feed a plant. And we see the little sparkles, and then you have the purples that come zipping through that are tied to a traveling ghost. And then you've got a couple examples of some bright white, shocking light, and similarly some bright purple, shocking elements. It's almost done like in a shadow outline. I just love the nuance of the visual effects. It just feeds into the enchantment and the sweetness, because it's not overkill, it's not overdone. This is not Marvel. We do not have, things shooting out of Iron Man's, flames coming out of his hands and power, and we don't have Thor's hammer there being electrified. So it just feeds into the intimacy and the sweetness of this story.
Yeah. Thanks. I think so too. It's just so I have this visual effects guy, Kareem Walks, who actually did work for Marvel for a while. And he's a Grammy-winning sax player, and he tours, and plays around the Eastern Seaboard and he's very, very talented. But he loves visual effects, and he loves telling stories, and that's always been his first love. And I found him through a friend, and he just got it. He really committed to it, and we had a lot of conversations. But I was like, look, ultimately, there's a couple things I want to accomplish with the ghost, and one is that when you do see her, because I want to make sure that the audience always stays attached to her. She is a presence. She has a purpose. She has a relationship with Danny, and it's in order to make the end work, that relationship should be felt, and you should feel the tenderness and the love between them and all of that. So there are moments where she appears more in a human form, and then there's moments where she becomes more energetic and playful, and she moves into what I like to call her energy ball. But I kept, saying, like, you just have to keep bearing in mind she's a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
She died when she was 12. Her spirit is still that of a 12-year-old girl. And so choices we make need to honor that, just keep that fresh in the viewer's mind. She's not some big scary thing, and she only gets scarier when she gets angrier.
Yeah.
And that anger is still that of a 12-year-old. She doesn't really understand the way of adult worlds, and things that get confusing for her. And so when she gets angry, it's from that sort of, it's from the thing that killed her in the first place was that her anger made her do things that were not done with thought.
Yes.
But were done with emotion. And it caused problems. And so when, that's just natural in a 12-year-old who doesn't have the ability to reason the way an adult would, or to have practices that stop them from making knee-jerk reactions. So we had a lot of conversations like that. And, I just don't think I would have the film I had if Kareem hadn't really stepped up and committed to getting us there, So I'm very, very grateful to him for caring.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the VFX, it looks really lovely, and it does keep you attached to our ghost Nina. But, I got to ask you, how difficult was this shoot? Number one, you got to get equipment up into Topanga Canyon. And for those people that have never been to Southern California and have not seen the beautiful area up in the hills, it's supposed to be 2-lane roads. It's not. You can get like one car. You're bringing trucks up with equipment. That's dicey. There's nothing along the way. You don't have turnouts. You can go down the side of a cliff easily. When it rains, it gets muddy. You can't drive anywhere up in that area where this shoot is. So I'm curious about logistically how challenging this was, and also then working with your DP, with Mark Alonso, with the storyboarding, the shot listing, the lighting. Given there's a lot of night sequences also happening here, which are just absolutely stunning. They're your money shots, I got to tell you.
Yeah, they're beautiful. The logistics, first of all, were ridiculous. I mean, and it got compounded. The house is basically 5 flights of stairs up. And they're stone stairs. They're partly bricked, and they turn to stone, then they turn to wood, and then and it's so just getting the equipment up there was a big task. And then because we couldn't carry the equipment up and down. It couldn't go like back in the truck for storage. It had to live somewhere on the property. We were having to shoot around the equipment a lot. Which caused some frustration for me at times, but we pulled it off. We found ways to get around it. But along with all of that, it was the year that it was like the stormiest in 10 years or something. We had so much rain that January, and our first 4 days were in December, and we were supposed to shoot it all in December. And then Miriam's father had a heart attack, and she had to fly back to Zurich, and that was right before we were supposed to start shooting. And she was like, if you need to replace me, I'll understand. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. So you go deal with what you have to deal with, and we'll figure it out from our end. So we shot 4 days, everything we could do without Miriam, the woman who plays Danny, without Miriam Hessler in it. And then came back in January, and the night we loaded in, it started pouring, and it was just me and Marco and the makeup artist and Miriam, and we were going to be staying in the house, so we came the night before. All the equipment had been loaded in during the day, and then we sort of dug in for the night, and I woke up the next morning, and all the roads into Topanga had been closed, all of them. There was no way to get in there. There was no way to shoot. We had to call off our first day of a very short shoot anyway. And so Marco and Miriam and I and the makeup artist and our production, somehow my producer and Nara Landon had made it through the mud. Nobody else could, but she made it in. And so I had them, and we just decided we were going to pull everything with Miriam in it, and we were going to try to just shoot it ourselves so that we didn't lose the day. So, fun things came out of these crazy experiences. It was really beautiful having this just very extremely small group of people, working together to dress the set and get the costumes out, and we just did all of it, and that was fun. And we made up a little 2 pages, which isn't a lot in this kind of shoot, but we made it up. But that kind of stuff hindered us all the way through. The parking lot, the place at the bottom where the car pulls in and out, turned into one giant mud puddle.
Oh God!
There was it was really difficult. One car pulled in the first day that we were back. They pulled in to drop somebody off and then got stuck. We could not get anybody to tow them out. There's just things like that were incredibly, incredibly difficult to maneuver around. So the schedule was constantly changing, and we were just constantly refiguring, what are we going to shoot today? What do we need to move into another space to make up for the fact we can't shoot down in the driveway? Like, logistics were bad. They were really hard. And so much of it came from just the position of the house being so high up on the hill, and then the rains. If it hadn't rained, I think we would have been in a little bit better shape. But no, it was crazy, crazy, crazy. And And then, but, you know, having Marco in the house with us all staying at the same place, we were able to regroup at the end of the night and get sort of on board for the next day where we were going, get, you know, kind of use that downtime, you know, productively. And, you know, I have a process which starts by myself because I do a lot of storyboarding that is diagrams, like overheads. And I do a lot of blocking that way too. So I'll block the actors. I'll have done a bunch of rehearsals with them, so I know what we've already worked through, and then I'll block it out based on the spaces, and then work my camera around that. And then I usually bring my DP in at that point, and we start talking.
Where are you, Jane?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Are you here?
You faded out there for a second.
Oh, sorry. I live in Laurel Canyon, so that's part of the beauty of the hills, right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
That's part of it. But yeah, so, you know, I like work it out first, and then I brought Marco in, and we just started talking through things, and every night we would go through and say, okay, like, let's look towards tomorrow. What do we need to do? We had a really good gaffer, and he had a very small team, but he worked fast, and he did a lot with in some cases, like the bedroom scene when they're downstairs and it's intimate, that's just one light.
Wow.
That's it. And it's gorgeous.
It is.
You know, yeah. So, you know, it was a real team effort. And then, you know, it was interesting getting the guys on board with the 2-camera, because I always shoot 2 cameras.
I know you do.
And I don't think Marco's ever done 2-camera before. And it was a very large Spanish crew, and for some reason, none of them were that like into the idea. But I was like, look, I promise you, we will not make it through without using them and using them to the best possible ability, and that's how I'll end up with enough footage to cut an interesting film. If we don't, we're screwed. And so, you know, in the beginning there was a little bit of push and pull on that, and by the end they were, you know, Marco was just like, I have an idea. Let's try putting the second camera here, and we'll get.
Oh, wow.
You know, he like really got into it and started using his imagination in terms of how to supplement and magnify the amount of footage we got, and you know, it was fun. We really ended up having such a good time. It started super, super rocky, but as we went along in the schedule, we found we were moving so quickly, we were pulling scenes up from the next day, which is almost unheard of. You know, a 13-day shoot, and we were going, oh, you know what, we're finishing early today. Why don't we just also shoot this other scene, which we were going to do tomorrow? And it made up, that got us back on track because we lost a lot in the beginning. That helped us get us through. But in the end, it was fun. We were moving really well. The actors were all, you know, jiving together. The crew was happy, which makes a huge difference. You know, a happy crew, you move much faster. And everybody just pulled together, you know, picking up slack where another department might need help. It was cool. So even though we ran into a lot of logistical issues and times and scheduling issues and things like that, in the end, because everybody became a true team, the challenges started becoming fun because it was like, how do you get around them, you know?
Now, I know a lot of people, when they get to see Witchy Ways, they're going to want to understand, how much research did you do? Because you're bringing in moon rituals, you're bringing in tarot cards. The deck that you use for tarot cards, by the way, is absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got spells being cast. So I'm curious how much research you did to bring in authenticity to those things, because I know you're not just going to write it in there. Oh, we're just going to pray to the moon. The moon's full. We're going to pray to the moon. I know that you don't do that. So
I don't. Yeah, no. I always do a lot of research on my movies, and it might seem like that this wouldn't be that type of movie where you'd need to, but since I didn't know anything about witches and the witch community is so large, I had a responsibility to represent this community of people, this spiritual practice in an accurate way. And for authenticity, I needed to do it. So I did a ton of research, first, just a lot of reading. I made sure that when I was using the tarot, I was very specific about the cards I chose, and made sure that the cards reflected what I was trying to say, and were accurate. I did a moon ritual to figure out what that was about, and I actually have adopted moon rituals now into my monthly, sort of a monthly practice, because it's a great way of realigning, I thought. But I did moon rituals. I actually had a tarot card reading for the script, which was interesting. I didn't even realize you could do that, but you can.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really neat. I mean, the stuff that came up was like really spot on, and actually informed some choices I made in the story, and the way I looked at the story. And then I went and talked to a few people that I didn't know before I started working on this film, but found out as I was working on it, they were practicing witches, and they were people in my life that I've known for quite a while. And so I'd had conversations with them and pulled and altered scenes to adapt to what I learned from them about their own practice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, lots and lots and lots of research. And then on top of that, we had one woman on the set she was sort of our witch consultant, and she helped to put together all the elements that we needed for Danny's cottage.
Oh, wow.
Being an herb, she's a green witch, so it's herbs and lots of greenery around her, just including outside, obviously, but inside as well. There were a lot of little specific things that we put in her cottage that went with her philosophy of life. But she was a witch that was on set, and she, did some cleansing things. So we incorporated the practice into actually how we worked on set. And then we had a couple of other witches that were in different departments. They weren't there for witchy reasons, but they were there, but they happened to be witches. And we had a lot of witch-adjacent people that understood portions of what a witchy spirituality usually encompasses.
Mm-hmm.
So I just made sure from the start to the finish it was supported, and that the research I was doing was deep, but also that I could back it up, but with real people who were corroborating my choices. So,
but now,
it was the whole thing.
Did you get a good spell for growing basil? I could really use that. My plant just dies. Every time I get one, it just dies. And I saw, oh, look, it's a basil plant. Okay, maybe Jane has a good spell that'll make mine grow.
Well, take the spell out of the movie. It's supposed to work.
That's what I'm going to have to do. Now,
and then loving attention and water.
Yeah, I think water may have been the death of me. That may have been.
Yeah.
It might have been overkill. I'm not sure. But now, I would be remiss not to bring up your wonderful score. You're working with Charlton Pettis again, who did Crazy Bitches. Your needle drops are so lovely. I love the needle drops. What were you looking for musically here?
Well, it was interesting. So I always put the temp track into my cut when I'm cutting so that I can start feeling it. And, I found a lot of good stuff that I use temporarily from Epidemic Sound and from Pixabay and stuff like that. But, when you have somebody as talented as Charlton, that's just a way to guide him towards what's in my head. And Charlton brought in Doug Petty to co-write with him on this. Doug Petty plays drums for Tears for Fears, and Charlton plays bass, and so they're really good friends. And in fact, I think he told me Doug was in Charlton's first band ever when he was really super young. So they go way back. So there was a real, comfort level in the way they work together. And what I was trying to do is walk the line between definite witchy moments, spookier moments, just that sense of magic, and the rom-com aspect of the film. Like both aspects of the film are important, and they needed to mesh together. So we had conversations about that, and then I think what they did, because I never really asked them their process, but because of the way the pieces came back to me, some were from one person, some was for the other, and I think what they ended up doing was dividing it up so that they worked on everything together, but somebody started the heart of one element and somebody started the heart of the other. So I think Charlton took more of the rom-com, modern everyday feel, and Doug took more of the witchy, spooky, supernatural, magical feel, and then they came together to make sure there was this unified whole. And then, and then I like using music in a way that emphasizes what's being said on screen or what's happening on screen as opposed to just riding through it. And so, it was fun to go through and go, let's try stopping this music right here, or let's try moving this into this other section at this moment when this happens, or this line is really important to me. Can we take a pause, keep the music going, but just take a pause so that I can hear these two lines together clearly, and then the music supporting it, and then move into the crescendo after, so like those little tiny shaping things is a really fun part of the score process for me. But most of it, relies on their talent. I mean, all I can do is convey what I'm looking for and let them know if it's not going in the direction I want, or if I feel like it needs to be deeper or darker or lighter or whatever. But they are incredibly, incredibly talented, and I just feel really lucky that Charlton's been on all my features in one of my shorts, and Doug's new to the team, but if he wants to do the next one, I hope they'll work together again, because they're really good together. They're really, really good together. And the score is something that everybody mentions. It comes out at all the Q&As, every interview I've done. It's just really special.
It really is. And I think you need to put out a soundtrack with the score and with the needle drops that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't have permission. I can do the score. I'll let Charlton do what he wants to do with it. The needle drops,
you have to get clearances.
Those I don't have permission to soundtrack. I mean, that's because I don't pay a lot of money. So my deal with everybody is like, it's yours to do what you want with, but I'll promote it if I can, but those are I went out and I talked to some friends that I knew were kind of witchy, and I was like, I need some music recommendations, turn me on to some musicians that are witchy. And I rely on my regular music supervisor, Jen Corday, to also help me identify what's out there that fits a particular mood. She's got so many ideas in her head, and she meets so many people on tour. And then she wrote the end song to the movie, which I thought turned out great.
I love that song. I think that's really terrific.
Yeah, I do too. I like it. So, and music has always been important to me in terms of storytelling. It's like, how does it, I don't want it to stand out on top of anything that's happening. It's important that I don't want to overly manipulate an audience using music, but I do want to have the music help explain what mood we're supposed to be in at any given time. And there's so many great artists out there. My God. I mean, they don't get a chance. They're this music is just all, I got more than I knew what to do with. And I wish I could have used, there were like at least 4 or 5 other songs. I was like, can I find some other place to put this?
Maybe we need a sequel.
They were just so good.
Maybe we need a sequel.
I highly recommend for people, if they're in the industry and they're doing low budget, contact Jennifer Corday. She can help you find these really, really talented people that aren't with a record company and, have full control of their music and are looking for outlets to have their audience have their music reach a wider audience. It's really important.
Well, talking about reaching a wider audience, what's on the horizon for Witchy Ways? You just had the screening at La Femme International Film Festival last week. So now what's next for Witchy Ways?
Well, we'll see. I'm taking it. I have a really good sales agent, and they're taking it to AFM next week, and I'm going in there to raise money for something else and then also support them. So we'll see what kind of, I think North America is going to be the first, thing we're going after, and we'll see where that lands. I'm not out to a bunch of other festivals. It's interesting, honestly, Debbie, I wasn't going to even do like a festival run at all with this movie because I felt like it was a commercial film. I feel like I know I'm not going to get a theatrical, but it belongs in the theater. Like it plays really well in a theater. And and it has. I wanted it to have that big production feel to it. So I thought, I won't do festivals because I know what festivals look for, and it's not really horror. So from a genre perspective, there's not a lot of places in that sort of horror festival tour like I did with Crazy Bitches.
And festivals don't really pick up rom-coms. Rom-coms don't fit in with festivals. So yeah, I see. Understand the dilemma there.
Yeah, but exactly right. That doesn't fit in, and for some LGBTQ film festivals, it's not
LGBTQ enough
to their community.
Yeah.
So there's that I'm fighting, and then other festivals are more straight festivals are like, well, but it's got a LGBTQ storyline, and we don't really do gay. Like I've had program directors say that to me, and so I was like, okay, I know what I made, and I didn't intend it, but from a sales perspective, it's helpful to have some festivals behind you, some press, some reviews, all of that stuff. It helps for the sale. And I was lucky enough that I had no more money left, but I was able to, go out to places where I knew the program I'd played before, and a lot of them took it. And then and it was all last minute. Like I literally finished August 16th, and I was still dropping effects in all the way through September. I mean,
my God,
crazy.
Oh my God!
And my sound guy came to the last screening and was like, "I have notes, Jane. We're going back in." So I'm like, "Okay." So we're doing another day of sound, but I'm grateful for the festivals I played. We are out to a couple of others that, it may or may not fit into. I would love to do a few through the spring just to keep
it out
the
there,
energy going around it. But ultimately, the goal is to find a good home for it, a good distributor that can take it out properly and hopefully put a little money behind it. A little bit of marketing.
Personally, I mean, I think this is very commercial. I actually would see this. It's a little step up from Hallmark and Lifetime, but it is in that vein with commercial appeal, wide appeal. Some smart person at AFM needs to pick this up. Needs to pick this film up. It is sweet. As I said, it is sweetly enchanting. It's got a magical touch to it. And it's lovely to look at. You've got beautiful location, talented actors, and I want a sequel.
I'm working on a sequel.
Good. Darn good thing.
I'm working on a sequel.
Darn good thing. I mean, I wanted a Crazy Bitches sequel, and you came back with 2 seasons of a series. So
right. Well, that's because I couldn't get financed after we got pirated so badly. It just really killed my financing.
That was a mess.
That was a mess. And hey, I still have and I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I have the original sequel script to Crazy Bitches that was going to be Crazier Bitches, and it was Mommy's Behaving Badly, and it's the funniest. I mean, it is so flippin' funny. And I think what I'm going to do is rebrand it as its own new piece and try to find money to make just a brand new.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because it's so good, and I would hate that the script be wasted,
Oh, absolutely. Ooh, yeah. I like that idea. Yeah, that is a good idea. And that's the beauty of this is the beauty of your work, Jane. You do it, and you do it so well that you want to see more. You want to see a continuation of these people. You want to see more of them. I want to see what happens with Eve and Danny. I'm more interested to see what happens to Penny as she is caretaking the house and the cottage. It's like,
well, Penny's going to have some stuff happen.
Well,
and
see,
I haven't figured it all out yet, but yeah, she's gonna be dealing with some stuff.
So I'm dying to see what happens with Penny. We know what happened with Robbie. Robbie's now happy. We know what's happened with him. You brought David Fumero back in this film. I'm not surprised, as Chief Rick. And he wanders in, he wanders out. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back again in the sequel.
He's coming back. He'll have a bigger role.
Oh, well. And I could see something with Penny and Chief Rick happening.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
I could see something with Penny and Chief Rick happening.
I might be able to make that happen for you.
And it could go in so many different directions.
It totally could.
But
oh yeah, there's so much there. And then I think there'll be a coven. There'll be a coven in there. And we'll see.
Or even have Chief Rick end up becoming part of a coven.
That's interesting.
A disbeliever who realizes he really does have some kind of power that he gets from Mother Nature.
Wonder what I could do with that. Mm-hmm. Well, David's Cuban. There probably are some good...
Oh.
There might be some good cultural touchstone that I could pull on.
Yeah.
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 Huh. I'll think about it.
This is what I'm here for, Jane. I am here. I am here to give you ideas.
Thank you. I didn't know this was going to be a story brainstorming session, but I'm loving it.
One never knows what I'm going to do on air. You know that.
I do know that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done this with other filmmakers, and all of a sudden I say, well, you could do this, you can do that. And then they're like, oh, my God, do we have to pay you for that? I said, no, I'll give you that gratis. So, pro bono for you, Jane, always.
Excellent. Thank you.
But that would be something interesting to have Chief Rick and Penny something, or bring Chief Rick into a coven. Actually have men in this coven as well.
Which is done. That's not unusual, really.
Yeah. But there's so many ways you can go with a sequel for me. That'll make me happy.
Okay. Well, I am working on it. I feel like this film is going to get picked up by the right person, and it's going to have a really strong trajectory, and which will put me in a position to have the next one financed. And when that happens, I want to be ready. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, when it gets picked up, you'll have to come back on the show so we can talk more about it and encourage people to go see it when they can go see it.
I'll love to do that. I would love to do that.
And I'd love to have you do that. All right. I must let you go. Yes. And yes, for all my faithful listeners, they know we're only 30 minutes over today. That's nothing new for me. You know that. I don't understand time. I can't tell time. Clearly, I cannot tell time. But Jane, this has been so fantastic. It has been way too long. I know you've been so busy. So we have to do this sooner rather than later.
I'll look forward to it, and I'll let you know as soon as I know what's happening.
Please do. And you go have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, same to you.
Thanks, Jane. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And that was writer-director Jane Clark talking about Witchy Ways. There is a website out for it. I didn't write it down. You can Google it. You will find it. But AFM, that's coming up next week. So hopefully the film will get a distribution deal. And obviously some more festivals are on the way. So keep your eye out for Witchy Ways. And as I get updates from Jane, I'll be passing them along here and on BehindTheLensOnline.net. So that is it. That is all the time we have today, and then some. We're in November next week. Don't forget to set your clocks back. You get an extra hour of sleep over the weekend. We're going to kick off with a horror film next week. And we're going to have the director of, and maybe a surprise guest, of Sally Wood, a story about Sally Kirkland. And it's hilarious. And any of you that know Sally Kirkland, if it's about Sally, and the tale of somebody who gets hired as her assistant, it is going to be a laugh riot. So, you don't want to miss next week's show, let me tell you. Especially if our special guest can join us. So, until next week, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.